The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, live from the Great White North in the Caribou region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here, stationed at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong, nightly on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, in over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. You can follow You can follow us all over social media, like on periscope.tv. We are live right now on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We'd love to have you there. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We also have our GoFundMe account going on right now. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night, as we look to set up a brand new studio here at SOR headquarters, and we could definitely use your help. Now, If you head to our website, you can go shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. My latest blog is on there as well, and we got great videos from UFO seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. Now, the reason why I am losing my voice here, no, I am not sick. I had some lasagna before dinner, or for dinner tonight, before the show. So, felt a little heartburn starting to come on. So, a couple minutes beforehand, old Davey decides to chew down a couple of Tums. Well, they're a little powdery. And you know, that stuff always seems to get stuck in your throat. But we got her done. Got a little bit of water down the throat. We're going to try here again. And we're going to get this thing going. So tonight, we step into the forests of Ohio, where there's always something weird and strange going on. Why is it with Ohio? Is it the water? Frogman, Dogman, Bigfoot, Grassman, aliens, UFOs, you name it, Ohio has got it. So why is Ohio so strange, and does it have anything to do with the fact that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has been known to have some strange things happening going on there as well? We're going to get all into it tonight, because one of my favorite researchers in North America is here, Jodi Cook. Jodi has been following the trails of sightings for the better part of 2 decades, ever since his own experience with a creature like Sasquatch when he was still serving in the United States military. So, what the hell are these creatures? What's going on in Ohio? We got to find out. Starting right now, as Jodi will be with us for the first 2 hours, hour 3, we're going to open up the phone lines to you. I want to know your cryptid secrets. What are you hiding that you haven't told anybody about cryptids? Have you seen Bigfoot? Have you seen Dogman? Let us know later on in hour number 3. Jodi, my friend, always a pleasure to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. You're a good friend of this show. Thank you so much for joining us for the next 2 hours.
Oh, glad to be here. Love being here. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Now, before you had your own experience, and we're going to get into that here shortly, did you believe any of these types of creatures even existed?
You know, I've always believed it. I remember when, I was a child, and, I can't really say a child. I was probably, 8 or 9 years old, I think, when The Legend of Boggy Creek came out, and went and saw that. And it was just, I was just fascinated with it, totally fascinated with it. And then I remember going to the drive-in with, my parents and seeing Planet of the Apes. And then they would show the Patterson film, right before the movie, in the drive-in. And a couple people actually remember seeing the Patterson film before they showed the Planet of the Apes. And it, you just got really fascinated with it. You kind of always knew that there was something there, and it just fascinated. And in Ohio, we always knew of certain things that were, spotted in Ohio, with the aliens, Bigfoot and things like that. So it was something that we all grew up with. But, knowing that, everybody knew about it from, the movies and things like that just made it more exciting. So, I've always believed in it. Even as a kid, I just got fascinated with it.
One of the things that I learned recently about you, I didn't know you actually got started in this as a UFO researcher.
Yeah, I was doing UFO researching for a long time, and I was with a local group here in Cincinnati called ASK, which was Associates for Scientific Knowledge. And back in the 80s, and even going into the 90s, this is when public access TV was still going, was really big and hot, and everybody was doing, their little shows there, and it was before cable even came out. And we had a live television show that we did on public access TV on the first Wednesday of every month. We would have guests on it. You could call in, and it was really interesting. We had a really big following. It was only showed like in Ohio, parts of northern Kentucky, parts of eastern Indiana, and a little bit of Virginia and Pennsylvania. But we had a huge following, and we would get all kinds of interesting stuff coming in. So I was doing the UFO stuff for quite a few years. And then we started getting a lot of, Bigfoot sightings coming in. And at the time, as a UFO researcher, I really never believed or felt that there was a Bigfoot UFO connection. We were getting a lot of reports of that, but I just never thought there was the actual connection there between the two. So they said, who wants to take this Bigfoot stuff? It's really interesting. We can make something with this. So myself and George Clapperson decided, we're going to go ahead and take this and do this. And we just kind of like fell into it. And it's just like, man, I'm giving up the UFO stuff because there's something to this. And I mean, it was like a drug. Seriously, it was like a drug when I first got into it. I lived it. Everything, every spare minute I had, I was out in the field. I was reading about it, doing everything I can because it was that strong. And I just, from there on, I fell in love with it and was doing it for 20 years. And, throughout the 20 years, I did a lot of other cryptid investigations, around the state, with like the Lebanon frogman and the Defiance werewolf and a couple other, UFO stuff that was, taking place. And it was just something I stuck with, and I really loved it. I enjoyed it. I still today, enjoy doing it. And like I said, over 30 years been doing this. So I really enjoy it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, and I also want to be specific here. You and I talked recently, about a month ago, and you were just about to become a first-time grandpa.
Yep, I am a grandpa now. Yep,
excellent.
Little boy. Yep, and I can't wait till he grows up a little bit and get him out in the field, getting him into the monster stuff.
Well, congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
And, that's very exciting that, anytime a new healthy addition gets added to a family, we always like to wish the best around here. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
When you started looking into the whole cryptid sense, did you have a full belief that these creatures were real, or did you think people were on some kind of psychotic drugs when you hear stories of frogman or werewolf or Bigfoot?
No, the thing about the Lebanon frogman here, I mean, it's a, I'm trying the best way to say it. It's a folklore of Ohio, just like the melonheads, the trolls under the bridge and things like that, here in Ohio, the stories, it's just something that, came up through generation through generation through generation in the state. And you grew up on this stuff. So you never thought that, this is made up stuff, because, if you heard it from, your parents, or you heard it from an uncle or something like that, you took it that it was real. There's something to it. And, when you hear, a family member like a brother and sister talk about it, or, they had an encounter, or one of their friends had an encounter, then, yeah, you knew it was real. But, it was I never thought that, someone was a nut, or, crazy for thinking of anything like that. Now, people thought we were, believing in something that, they didn't understand and things. And, a lot of part of it was, I came from a really religious family. My father was Episcopalian minister, and, my mother, she was Irish Catholic. So I kind of had the best of two worlds there. I was raised Catholic. Me and my brother, we would go to the Catholic church, and then also go, the Episcopalian church to see my father preach and stuff. So, there was a strong belief there, but my father was always this type of person that, he believed, and there was other life out there other than, human life, or, God if Bigfoot exists, then God created him, and God had a reason why he created something like that. He always looked at it as it was a mystery for mankind to solve, and, never took it as questioning religion or questioning, the faith of God when it comes to extraterrestrials and things like that. So that was real good growing up, with parents of two different religions, that were open to the subject and never ridiculed, me or, ridiculed my friends or really ridiculed anybody, about the different subjects, of the existence of them or not.
Well, let's get back to your days of serving in the military. Take us back to the day where you had your encounter.
Oh, God. It was in the early 90s. It was 92 or 93. I can't remember at the top of my head. And it was up in Grayling, Michigan. And Grayling, Michigan is a military post, reserve post, an active military post that the United States and Canadian forces go to train. It's one of the very few places in the United States where both countries actually are together on one post in training. And it's a really secluded area. And I remember the first time that I was there out in the field, I remember seeing large tracks because the roads are real sandy roads, not real thick and deep sandy roads. Just, have like a sand cover on them. And I remember, when we're out in the field and we would go across the road, we would see these large tracks. And, I've always thought, man, what is this? And then when you start looking at them and they're clearly, a large human foot, then you knew that there's something out there. And they've always been stories of, a Bigfoot in that area. And it was like, man, this is neat. So I think it was probably the fourth or fifth time that I was there is when I actually had our sighting. There was three other guys besides myself, and about a week prior to that, two officers had a sighting up at their tent out in the field. We were doing an exercise called lanes, and basically what that is that officers observe you doing your different type of maneuvers and things out in the field, and you get graded on it and things. And they were going back to their tent, and it was outside of their tent, snooping around in their area, and they reported it. And I remember they got all kinds of hell reporting it, not in trouble, but being joked with and things like that. So it was on a Friday, and we were in charge of a 50 caliber range at the time, and we had the ammunition, and we were trying to get back to the ASP, which was the ammo supply dump, on a Friday afternoon to get it there before they closed. Otherwise, we would have to sleep in the vehicle with the ammo until Monday morning. Keep it secured. So what we decided to do was go off road, to go through the woods to get from point A to point B. And on a military reservation, that's a no-go. You'll get in trouble big time for that. And we decided we're going to go ahead and do it because we weren't going to get stuck with this, ammunition. It was our weekend free. So we decided to go off the road. The tree line was getting really thick. And we were in a Blazer, the old style Blazers at the time. And I was in the front seat. We had a driver, and we had two guys that were in the back, and the rest of the ammunition, everything was in the back there. And the tree line was getting really thick, so we decided, this was a bad idea. Let's go ahead and back up to the road and just, and go as fast as we can to get there. And then what happened was, when the vehicle stopped, the driver put the vehicle in reverse, and I'm still looking ahead. He's looking back to try to maneuver the vehicle around, and that's when it moved. If it would not have moved, we would have never seen it. And he was about, I want to say, literally either 12 to 15 feet in front of the vehicle. He was that close. We thought it was a tree. We thought a tree was actually falling as it was moving. We thought maybe we hit a tree. And like I said, if he would have never moved, we would have never seen him, and he would have been on his way. But what happened, and I said, I just said something to the driver, stop. And then, he's right there. And then he just, we saw him from the upper thighs, waist area up. We didn't see the bottom of his feet till actually went away from us. We were able to see his feet and things. But he was about 7 feet, 7.5 feet. He wasn't really that tall, but he was extremely muscular. I mean, really extremely muscular body, long arms, long legs, thin waist, massive chest, very human face, very, very human face. The hair was like a reddish brown color. And like up on his chest, his upper shoulders, in his head area. If you ever seen a dog or a coyote or something like that with mange, that's kind of what it looked like. I mean, his hair was really thin. And what was so thing I can remember most, because we were that close to him, and this was about 8:30 in the evening in Michigan, and this was summertime, so it's still light, and his skin was like flaky almost, or it was real odd. It was it was like that mange look. It was just really hard to describe. I mean, his skin tone color was a little bit darker than a Caucasian person. I mean, it was really that light a skin color, but it was more darker. But like I said, his nose was very human. He had a massive jaw. He had a satchel crest on his head, small ears. The eyes were like a blackish red color. No white whatsoever, seeing no teeth or anything like that. He looked like he was an older male. I mean, just from his appearance, he looked like this guy had a hard, rough life. And he just moved right ahead, looked at us, and we looked at him, and it was like a glide, was the only way I can explain it. It was just like a glide, the way he moved. And the whole time he was looking at us, and he just went back into the wood line. And we got back up on the road, and no one said anything to each other till we got back into the Cantonment area. And we discussed it, and we decided not to say nothing to anyone. And I never said anything to anyone about this sighting other than one person, Linda Moulton Howe. I told her about the story, and she mentioned it on Coast to Coast with Art Bell about 1 year and 2 years after my sighting. She talked about it, and I never talked about it to anyone else until I wrote the book Traces of the Grassman, and I put the story in there. So, but there's till today, they're still having sightings up there. That whole facility, that base, there's just there's UFO sightings and stuff. I mean, that's going on up there. I remember because we were an infantry unit at the time, and we went mechanized. And either you went to Kilo School to become a tanker, or you went to Delta School to become a scout. So I ended up going to Delta School to become a scout, but I also had an MOS and ammunition. So we were up on, after we got back from our schools and stuff, we were back up in Grayling, Michigan, on a training exercise, for live fire with the Abram tanks. And again, I was in an area where we were bringing the ammunition and stuff in, for the live fire. And so the range is down like in a ravine is the best way to describe it. And then, you had your road and everything up on the, 75, 80 feet probably above you in the opposite direction. And I remember one day that everybody was on the range, and the range master comes out and tells everybody to get out of their vehicle, report back to this certain staging area. And I mean, there was still live ammunition that were in the chambers of these vehicles, all right, in these guns. And they made everybody get out, even though, they were still live ammunition in there. And they took everybody and they put us in a building and told us not to look out the windows, not to go near the windows. And we were there for a few hours, and then finally they came and let everybody back out. And then, we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And then their excuse was, well, the live fire was disrupting communications with the shuttle that was allegedly was supposed to be up in, space, and it was interfering with the communications. And it's like, really? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. We're like way down here, there's a highway that sits way above us that's, and there's, planes and all this stuff. It just didn't make any sense. And then there was a guy there that who was a reservist that worked for AT&T, and he said, no, that's bull. Okay, live fire on the ground would not disrupt communications, with the shuttle, and plus the shuttle wasn't even up, and that was the other thing. The shuttle wasn't even up. So we went into Grayling, Michigan. Again, this was on a Friday, which made it kind of odd. And then we were in Grayling, Michigan because we got the weekend off, and we went in to go get breakfast. And I remember the local newspaper talked about all these UFO sightings that happened the day before. And the only thing I can think of was that with the amount of UFO sightings that were taking place up there, they wanted the live fire to stop, so they did not think that we were hostile. That's the only thing I can think. But that was a weird situation. And anybody that, if you talk to anybody that's ever served in that area, they'll tell you that is one of the biggest hot spots, Lansing and Grayling, with UFOs. I mean, just constant amount of sightings that take place up there.
Good hockey there, too, at Lansing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The Miller family, Kessler. Yeah, I can go hockey on anything, man. If I can find a way to put hockey in there, why not?
Well, I heard our female hockey team and the Canadian female hockey team got into a big fight at the Olympics over a lost game.
Wouldn't surprise me. Nobody gets hurt. The IOC, they slap some hands, but that's okay. That's okay. Anyhow, when you had that sighting there, or when you were forced into the buildings and not allowed to go to the room, to me, my first inclination was that maybe a ship came down and was over the base, and they didn't want any of you to see it.
Well, that's when well, at the time when all that stuff was happening, you don't think about that. You're just thinking, something happened, because there was a guy a few days earlier. The thing about the Abrams tank, okay, the barrel will stay in a stable mode while the vehicle's moving. It could go up and down and all kinds of things, and that barrel will stay on target. And that's what makes that tank so great. Well, you have to be careful when you're in there. A few days earlier, a young troop got his head stuck between the barrel and the tank, and it squished his head, because the tank was actually moving, but the barrel was staying immobile. So we thought, well, here, this was probably another training exercise. Someone died again. More American soldiers are killed in, training exercises than in combat. And that's what we thought. We didn't think anything of it until after, as soon as they sat there and said, and I was a UFO researcher at the time. Okay. So, you weren't pulling nothing on me over this. Communications with the shuttle. I mean, really, that was the most lamest excuse. And that's how our government is. They will use the most lamest excuse because people are stupid, when it comes to, certain things. And, they sit there and believe that, our government, our government tells you something, our government's telling you the truth, and it's crazy. But it's just, that's a possibility, because there was just a lot of UFO sightings. I remember there was actually a picture inside the newspaper, and I remember having one of the newspapers that actually had like the picture of the UFO in there and things. But yeah, that's a possibility. Definitely a possibility, because you heard stories from different soldiers that actually were in the field and seen crafts that were landing. Out there in the field on post.
There's nothing scarier there's nothing scarier, man, than a UFO landing. It is trippy, man. I've had it once.
Yeah, Ohio. Ohio's known for a lot of weird stuff because of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then we have in Adams County, we have an area, what they call Ohio's Area 51. And it's GE has a secret facility in Adams County, and that's where they test all their engines and things like that. But, they got signs that said, deadly force will be used. You go beyond this point, and, people don't go in that area, don't go beyond the point. And, a lot of strange crap happens in that, that particular area there, and one of the biggest things that got me kind of out of the UFO stuff, I mean, I've had two really close friends of mine die of cancer quick. I mean, I'm talking quick. And these guys were in some really deep stuff. I mean, they had some really good stuff. And they died of cancer. And it's just, as God is my witness, these guys would call me and our other guys on the team and say, listen, there's people outside of my house watching me. They would be gone. They would come home. Their stuff would have been gone through. Their files would have been gone through. I mean, Kenny even said, he said, I had $1,000 laying on my desk that I left there. I forgot about it, and he went out to go somewhere, and he ended up coming back, and his house was gone through, his files and everything, but the money was still laying on the desk. A lot of weird stuff. And these, like I said, these two guys died of cancer, and it's just, because they were in some really, really, deep state stuff, talking with people, getting, really some really deep information and things like that, and then actually one of the other guys on the team actually ended up with, hired working for the CIA, and he still works for the CIA today. He's a spook for him, it's just, a lot of weird stuff, man. It's like, that will get you killed, and that's the way I thought about it, but nowadays, the government, they don't kill you. They destroy your life. They make you out to be, a nut or a pedophile or a mass murderer or some, crazy, crap like that. Humiliation is worse than death. Destroying someone's credibility is worse than dying, and they know that.
I want to go back to your Bigfoot story here, because in reality we have you here for Bigfoot and Dogman and whatever type of man. I apologize. I'm in Canada, so dog people, Bigfoot people,
Dog, yeah.
Yeah, we got to be inclusive to everybody here, thanks to our Prime Minister. But nonetheless. Yeah,
Isn't he Castro's son or something?
Oh, that's the rumor. They do look alike. I'm not gonna, but Pierre Trudeau looked like a rat too, his dad, and Justin has that beady-eyed rat look on him. So, you just never know. But anyhow, when you had that close encounter, when you were 12 to 15 feet away from this Sasquatch, you obviously, the way you described it, had an incredible look. And when you see something that up close and personal that's not supposed to exist, it's amazing how the photographic memory can kick in at those points. Now, I want to flip the tables. You've seen Todd Standing's work. How different did your Sasquatch encounter, up close and personal, look to anything that he has put on his films or documentaries?
Nothing. Every single picture or video that I've seen on, TV or Facebook of Bigfoot looks nothing like that. Nothing like that. Todd Standing, the guy was a puppeteer for Jim Henson, and he made a lot of money working for Jim Henson, as a puppeteer, and stuff. So the guy's knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing when he's creating something like that. And I never believed any of his stuff was legitimate in the first place. But general-wise, it didn't I mean, like I said, the face was, I mean, it was human. It was actually human looking, in feature. The body, was literally, if you've seen a gorilla, okay, a gorilla has very short hair on his body. It's very short, except for his arms, and it's very, very long. That's exactly how the body looked. The hair was very short all over the body. No, nothing real long or anything like that, waving. It was really short on the body. And his forearms actually had longer hair like a silverback does on his arms. And, like I said, his hands were, definitely very human. But, but his body was like a Neanderthal, or Cro-Magnon body, rather, where it was very, very muscular. Because I remember, the chest. I remember seeing the pecs in his chest. I remember seeing, the six-pack on his stomach. His butt was, a tight little butt. His legs were muscular. His legs were like a ballet or a skater, the muscles in the leg. I mean, that's how his body was. He was perfectly proportioned. And, for an animal like that, he's gonna have that type of a body. But, like I said, there's nothing, not even in a drawing. I saw one drawing, there was a Bigfoot show called, Bigfoot, something evidence they had on the History Channel, where they had a bunch of the Dr. Meldrum and a couple other doctors that were talking about, description of Bigfoot and stuff like that. And there was actually one drawing they had on there where the facial features and the head with the satchel crest and everything like that was about an 80% connection to what I saw, but his body obviously, is nothing like a bear. It was, like I said, it was just, the body reminded me of like a gorilla, how a gorilla's body is, with like I said, with the short hair, no silver in the back or anything like that. But his color was, like a brownish red color, But, no sound whatsoever. And this is another thing, too, I noticed I didn't smell anything. The windows were down. I never noticed a smell whatsoever. And I've talked to other people that have had sightings that actually mentioned that they've never had.
I never had a smell in mine. Mine. And we were within, 100 feet of the first one and 75 feet of the second one. Mm-hmm. Nothing odorous, nothing pungent. It was just like the regular forest.
Oh yeah, I mean, 'cause, there's bears in Michigan, and I remember having a sighting of a black bear there in Grayling. But I mean, we smelled that first before we even seen the bear. And that bear. I mean, bears have a smell of their own. But like I said, I don't ever remember on that post out in the field smelling something that got my attention. Now here in Ohio, I've smelled things that, it's obvious there was a, Bigfoot around, but, up there, this is, it's just kind of odd, how this thing looked, how it had no smell. The eyes, that's the thing I remember most, is that the eyes, were black, but with the sunlight as it was moving, it had somewhat of a red tint to it, but no white in the eyes. They were just like cold black, and he didn't have hair. And another thing too, like when, he didn't have hair on the face, on the cheeks. He had a little bit of hair that was like on the chin, nothing on his upper lip, the top of, on his forehead area, going up on the satchel crest, and on the back there was very, very light hair because, like you said, he looked like he had mange or something, because his skin looked flaky, some type of irritation or something like that, that was on the top of his head and the back of his head, in the shoulder area and the chest area. He did have the hair, on the back jaw line and things like that, but none whatsoever on the face. Completely no hair. But like I said, his skin tone was, like a Caucasian, but it was just a little bit darker. Very, and, I've talked to people that, that said, the skin was cold black and things like that, and that could very well be, because, here's my theory, on Bigfoot. There's different Bigfoots in different parts of the country. Okay. What's in east of the Rockies, we know they're aggressive. We know that they're not that big. They're about 6 to 7 feet. Some have been seen up to 8 feet. When, you go out to Pacific Northwest, they're, 8 feet, even bigger. They're docile. They don't, they're not that aggressive. They don't try to make too much contact. And when you go further north, like in Canada and the British Columbia area, they're much bigger. They can, there's reports of them being up to 12 feet and cannibals, up there. When you, in the southern part of the United States, in the swamp areas, you have like the Fylth monster, and things, and that's a whole different look also. So the way I look at it is, you look at the Bigfoot species, and there's probably different breeds of the species, like a dog. It's a canine species, but they're different breeds of the species. The humans, we are the human species, but they're different breeds, which we call races of our species. So why would they not be different breeds, of Bigfoot, all around the world and the United States, due to the environment that they live in? I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. That's why when people see the Fylth monster, and it has 3 toes or 4 toes, it's probably not inbred. It's probably, that's the species. The species, only has 3 toes or 4 toes. His hair is much long, very, very long and thick and matted, and he's, 6 to 7 feet. And then when you look at the, Eastern Bigfoot, his hair is much shorter, and it's more, he's more stockier. He's, not as tall, but he's extremely aggressive. And then, out in the Pacific Northwest, it's a different thing. And that makes sense. And that's the way, researchers have to look at it. The Bigfoot that's in the United States, and the Almiska in Russia, the Alma, the wild man, the Yeti, the Yowie, they're all different species. They're not going to look the same. If you look at the descriptions of each one, they're different. Now, my personal opinion, that the Yeti, I think he's an ape. I don't think he's a Bigfoot. I think he is an actual ape. I think he's probably descendant of the Gigantopithecus. And that's why his characteristics are more of an ape than any other Bigfoot creature out there. And like I said, that's my opinion, and that's from what my research and things that I felt came to my conclusion that he's more of an ape than he is actual a different type of species of creature. Because we know through history, every single Native American culture, or even up in Canada, talks about Bigfoot. Every single culture has something. Even in Africa, they, if you at Giant Castle Pass in South Africa, there's cave paintings of Bigfoot, giant ape-like creatures. And yeah, there's an area in South Africa, and there's a lot of sightings in this area. Like I said, it's called Giant Castle Pass, where they are having sightings of a large ape, like creature. A giant is basically what they call it. There's other different parts of Africa that has had sightings. Even in the Congo, they have had sightings of a creature that they know is not a chimpanzee and they know is not a gorilla. And just recently, what happened in the Congo? They found a brand new species of chimpanzees, and they found a brand new species of gorilla in the Congo that should not have ever been there. And they're both brand new species, of each. So there it goes, and then that's what I believe. Like when it comes to the Bigfoot species, that's what it is. They're just different breeds of the species.
You mentioned about the First Nations and American Indians or Native Indians in regards to it, but there's also the whole idea where a lot of people, and I'm one of them, okay, and I'm not using my tinfoil hat on this one, just for clarity, all right, but there are a lot of people who believe that Sasquatch has some type of interdimensional or powerful way to make sure that every photograph is blurry or video is blurry. I know it sounds incredulous and ridiculous. I do, all right? But on the flip side, if people are having strange experiences, why do so few in the field of cryptids actually investigate it?
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought you took a pause
okay.
there.
That's okay.
No, it's like here in Ohio, the Shawnee and the Cherokee are two of the most well-known tribes. And a little bit north of where I live in Cincinnati, there's a Native American museum. And inside this museum, the Shawnee they have a battle axe in this museum that the Shawnees use to fight the big blue giants. Okay. Now, the big blue giants are Bigfoot. Okay. The reason why they call them the big blue giants is because talking with the elders and stuff here, getting the research and things, and apparently their hair was so dark that it had a blue tint to it. And the Shawnee is how can I say this? The Shawnee don't like the white man. They really don't like the white man at all. They're one of the very few Native American tribes that really despise, and we live with these people here, and they don't like it. And very well they have a good point, for not liking us. But it's like they have a mask, okay, of the big blue giant, but and even characters, but they will never allow a white man to see it because they believe once a white man sees it, because a white man is so evil, it's going to bring this creature out. And once this creature is out, then they have to deal with it because they feel that they are the only people that can destroy the evil creature. Okay, and we know that here in Ohio and northern Kentucky that they had battles with each other over land, over food, over them taking people, and that this battle axe is one of the axes that they used to kill these Bigfoot with. Okay, so they have it in this museum up here in Ohio. And we have all these different mounds and things. And what's so odd about these mounds, that's where this museum is, they were finding large skeletons in these mounds. 10, 12-foot skeletons. When they started excavating these mounds and things, and, they shut that up real quick. Real quick. I remember hearing about this stuff, even as a kid, that they found large skeletons of giants in these mounds here in, Ohio. And so we have another tribe, which are the Cherokees, which is probably one of the most well-known Indian tribes in the country. And, the Cherokee, they have, they call it booger, and they have a dance, what they call the booger dance, where the booger would dance with the children, and the children would follow the booger around, and the booger has a basket on, and basically what the dance is about, if the children don't listen to their parents, if they don't do their chores, if they're bad, the booger's going to come and get them at night, carry them off in the basket, and eat them. Well, when the white man was going further west, they were picking up a different, folklores and things like that. So they hear these stories about the booger and things like that. So that's where we get the boogeyman. If you don't be good, the boogeyman's going to get you. If you don't pay attention, the boogeyman's going to get you. That all comes from the Cherokee folklore of the wild man of the woods. So the Native American, each culture has their own theory of them, has their own way of dealing with them, has their own way of respecting them. And even, in the First Nations and, there in Canada, they know, that you do not mess with them. They stay on their side, we stay on our side, we respect their part of the land, they respect our part of the land, and that's it, and because they had to deal with it, they had to fight with them. I think every single Native culture, other than the Plain Indians, actually had to deal forcefully one way or another with them, even in Canada.
Well, the tribes up here, they were more so scared about their women being kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it was real. Like, they didn't allow, I know in the Chehalis area, they didn't allow their women to go out after dusk, especially if they were on their menstruation cycle or pregnant.
Right.
And there are many First Nations up here who believe on the Highway of Tears that many of those young ladies who have gone missing have literally, been taken as Sasquatch wives. Up to 20 to 30%.
They're here in Lake Between the Lakes, Kentucky, is very well known for the Dogman and the massacre and all that stuff that took place there. But a lot of people don't realize there's a large Bigfoot community in that park. And there's a road, it's 28 or something like that. I think that separates north and south of the park, and the Bigfoot stay in the southern part, the Dogman stays in the northern part. Okay, every so often there's reports of off and on there. We found large Bigfoot tracks up in the northern part of where the Dogman area are, and there are reports of seeing female Bigfoot that were their characteristics were so human. I mean, so human. The word was freakish when that was used. I mean, and they felt that these were hybrids. These were hybrids that, because there's people missing in LBL all the time, and there are women that have been missing down there. And a lot of people believe that, these ones that they're seeing down there are actually hybrids. There's two females they see a lot down there that are very human characteristics. And like I said, they believe that these two females are hybrids from a captured woman by a Bigfoot down there. There was a Bigfoot down there they call Stonefoot, which is supposed to be the largest, most aggressive Bigfoot, and he travels through, goes up into the north, and he doesn't care, about the Dogman, up there, and that's what a lot of people believe, because he's been seen a lot up in the northern part, and he's put I've never seen him, I've seen a lot of tracks and things like that, but I've never seen anything Bigfoot, in there. Because, like in the southern part, there's like an old factory down there, and I think it was like a salt factory or something like that. I can't remember. But they said the Bigfoot would go in there and lick the salt off the walls because they would always see them in this area, you know, and a lot of people go there, you know, hoping to see a Bigfoot because they said they've seen these Bigfoot lick the salt off the walls, you know, so that was kind of odd. But I mean, you know, a lot of people have had sightings like that down there. So, who knows? And you know, they could, you know, take people and they could mate with them. I don't see why they couldn't. You know, they could eat them. I mean, when we were in British Columbia, we wanted to go out, and I can't remember the area. God, this was so long ago. And I remember the Keweenaw Indian tribe. Did I say that right? KW, something like that.
Yeah, there's a couple different ones that start KW. There's the Kwantlen.
Yeah,
Are you talking Vancouver Island?
No, Vancouver itself.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't remember the tribe, and I remember, you know, them telling us, you know, you don't want to go. You don't want to go in this area because these things will eat you. You know, they're cannibals. Yeah. I mean, you know, these guys were serious as a heart attack. You know, yeah. and you know, they said, I'm telling you, you go, you're not going to come back.
I hear you. And
so we took the word. So we didn't go.
I don't blame you. Jodi, I got to put you on hold right now. We're going to hop out for our first break. This is way too fast. We got to get into frogman, dogman, grassman. I'm sorry, frog people, grass people, dog people, because I'm Canadian. And Justin tells me I have to. So we're going to step out for a break right now. Joedy Cook is our guest. We're going to get into more cryptids right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Lori and Fenton here, SOR listeners. Join me at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th, where 14 presenters discuss all things disclosure, UFOs, and aliens. Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address disclosure. Preston Dennett will present Inside UFOs. Your Dave Scott and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien contact. Get tickets at caufocon.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lori and Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with Newfound Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Ghosts of the Great White North. We are going to be joined by Karen Smurl, Mike Morin, and we're going to talk ghosts all night. It's going to be a fun night indeed, and we get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We're also on The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Concupiscence. Concupiscence is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so live on periscope.tv every Monday through Friday. We are on Twitter as well, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We would appreciate that if you subscribed. And we are on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you have a plethora of features to choose from, including shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. You can also read up on the encounter online or watch great videos from UFO seekers, Contact TV, and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Now in hour number 2, we have Jodi Cook for one more hour with us to talk everything strange and cryptid in the lands of Ohio. In hour number 3, we're going to open up the phone lines to you guys. So if you have had a cryptid experience, I want to hear about it. And I'll give you the phone number at the top of the next hour. But, Jodi, thank you so much for being with us. So appreciate you coming on in
I
here.
Enjoy it. Love it.
Well, we got to do it more often, my friend. We got to do it more often.
Definitely.
So we talked a lot of Bigfoot in hour number 1. I want to move on here because Ohio has so many different creatures that have been seen, from frogman to grassman, dogman, hippies, everything that's in between. And a lot of people who I have talked to over the years since I've been involved in this field believe it has something to do with the high strangeness that happens at Wright-Patterson Airfield. Do you believe this?
There's something odd about Wright-Patterson and some of the stuff that's going on out and around that area. There's what's kind of neat. During the Second World War, they brought a lot of German POWs and they kept them at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And there's a bunker that they kept them in, and the German POWs painted this mural on the wall of this bunker of flying saucers, the little green men, just odd little cryptid creatures, and I guess the people who are in charge really never paid attention to it, but it's still there today in the bunker. I mean, it's really beautiful. I mean, they did just beautiful artwork, on about UFOs and aliens and cryptids. I mean, it's odd. So there's something going on. If they were able, to do that type of mural with all that stuff on it, they had to know something. They had to see something, in order for them to do it. Because it's I mean, in the 1940s, if they're going to paint a mural on the wall, of the bunker that they lived in, you think they would do something about home or family or something like that to remind them of the fatherland. But why would they put aliens and UFOs and just strange creatures, paint that on the wall? It just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
We had a guy on the show a couple of years ago who's an ET contactee. His name's Jim Thomas. He's out of Ohio. He lives about 50 miles from the base. I don't know which direction, so I apologize. But being a retired firefighter, one of the scariest things he ever said to me was that he has buddies who were firefighters at Wright-Pat, and apparently they were told that in certain buildings that just kind of stood aloof from everybody, that if there was a fire in those buildings, even if people were screaming to get out, to let them burn. Leave them there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard stories like that. The thing, there's no Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. There's an Area 18 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. But if you talk to people, you know, they'll tell you everything's underground. There's nothing above ground that's going to be UFO connected or alien connected or whatever. It's all going to be underground, and you know, in that facility there. And you know, the thing of it is, if anything fell from the sky foreign, that's where it went. You know, it went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It didn't go anywhere else, because that's where the Foreign Technology Division is of the military, is at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So there's a lot of things you wonder that went there, like, you know, the Kecksburg, you know, UFO crash. Did it end up going to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? You know, there's rumors that it did. And, you know, the Kecksburg case in Pennsylvania, that's a whole different ball game, because my personal opinion, what Kecksburg is, that was the Nazi Bell Project. And to get a little, you know, to kind of get back, before I get back into the cryptid stuff, but look at the Nazi Bell Project. It was supposed to be a time machine, and there was 3 people. There was 2 German officers, and there was a woman who was a psychic for the Fuhrer. All 3 of them came up missing because they went to the Bell. And I think that the Bell, when it came missing in 1945, it came back through a different time and dimension to Kecksburg, you know, in the 1960s or 1970s, you know. So that's something to, you know, you got, if anybody wants to read into those 2 different things, because the similarities are about the same. But you know, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is just, you know, it's odd. I mean, you know, it's just something. It's like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, man. When you walk into that area, you can feel it. And Wright-Patterson is the same way. You can feel it. That there's something.
I'd like to go
there.
I'd like to get as close as I possibly could. That's on my wish list of things to tour in North America, is to get to Ohio, because you just never know what you're going to see there. You definitely are not going to know. And let's shift over to Dogman. You mentioned in hour number 1 that you believe that Dogman sightings and Sasquatch sightings are happening in different areas. Do you sense there is some sort of territorial split between the two, so that way they don't clash?
Well, you know, we have an organization called the North American Dogman Project, and right now we have about 255 members, member researchers, and we have 25 chapters in the United States, 2 in Canada, and 1 in the UK. And what we do, we collect data on sightings. So we have a map that's on our website to kind of let everybody know where these Dogman sightings have taken place. Well, what we're finding out is a lot of the Dogman sightings are in the eastern part of the country, mostly in the northeast part of the United States. And it's been that way for several years, okay? And just recently, they're popping up in places you would never imagine a Dogman sighting to be. And so now our map is, you know, it's spreading. It's spreading further west. It's going further south. You know, they're just all over the place. You know, when we had the Defiance, Ohio werewolf case in 1972, the first sighting took place in July, where a railroad worker was attacked, you know, by this creature, and it went all the way into August of 72 with the amount of sightings of a werewolf, you know, basically terrorizing the town of Defiance. And what's kind of unique about this, oh God, what's his name? Stephen King's book and the movie Silver Bullet, the beginning part of that movie where the railroad worker was attacked, that's based off the Defiance, Ohio case. Because he was so fascinated with that. Yeah, he was fascinated with that. And and he put that part in there based off the attack that took place in Defiance, but no one was killed. But people were, were seeing this thing, and that was like the only time, you ever heard anything about a werewolf. Because everything was Bigfoot. You had the Minerva monster, which was one of the biggest Bigfoot cases in Ohio, and that was in August of 1978 is when, these sightings were taking place. But, I would go back, I got files going back 30 years of my research, and I would go back and look at a lot of these old cases from the 80s and the 90s, and I see a pattern, that it was probably a Dogman what they seen, not a Bigfoot, because of the characteristics of the pointed ears, the snout, the legs, the claws, the teeth, things like that. And, in the 80s, no one ever thought about werewolves because it was not that big other than what was going on in Michigan or even in Wisconsin. That's where the werewolves were. They weren't in Ohio or anyplace else. We just had it in Ohio just at one time. But going back looking at research, man, a lot of these people were not seeing Bigfoot. They were seeing Dogman. So the numbers of sightings is just growing across the country. We have a lot of newspaper articles and stuff that's on our website, for different sightings across the country and things. And it's fascinating that, something like this was able to stay hidden for so long. It's mind-blowing. I mean, Bigfoot's a different thing. I mean, I've got a book called A Buckeye Boyhood that was written in 1877 and published in 1911 by a guy by the name of William Vanderbilt. And he's an Ohio author, wrote a lot of books about Ohio at the turn of the century. And so he wrote this book about him growing up in Ohio in the 1840s. And he talks about Bigfoot in his book. He talks about, the Black Panthers and the red flying squirrels, things that don't exist no more in Ohio. But he describes the Bigfoot to a T, says it's something between a gorilla and Sinbad's Old Man of the Mountain. Okay? So, and that, you have stories like that going back, but you don't have anything about werewolves, going back that far. I think I got like 2 articles from the 1800s that talk about a werewolf type creature. Now, Europe is a completely different thing. I have a drawing in the 1830s when they did the old newspapers and stuff, like the drawings in there. They were all wood carvings, and they would just put the ink on it and slap it down, and that's how the picture came about. And there's a picture in this town in Germany in 1831 where this werewolf was harassing the town, and the drawing. What's so unique about the drawing? It looks like a typical Van Helsing style werewolf. I mean, it's just, the resemblance is just fascinating. This is from 1831, and I've got a copy of the drawing, from the newspaper. And, but like you said, Europe's a whole different thing. This is something that, they, it's in their culture going hundreds of years that these things exist. Here, it's just, something completely new to this country. And if it was here, it was kept quiet. It was kept within the families, and, it was kept, kept itself away from, prying eyes.
Have you ever heard of any sort of battle or standoff between Sasquatch and Bigfoot in the forest?
I've talked to people that have seen it. I don't know of any personally, other than just stories that I've read from other accounts. But my thing is, that would be one hell of a fight, and it's one of these things you just don't know who would win. I mean, obviously the strength would be on the side of the Bigfoot, but the weaponry would be on the side of the Dogman. I think, in my personal opinion, I think that they stay clear of each other if necessary, and they're not going to fight. Maybe if the more than one Dogman came across a Bigfoot, I think that's a whole different situation. I think they would take advantage of the situation, because he not only is he a threat, but he's a predator towards them. So they're going to eliminate the threat. Bigfoot, I think is different, because I think Bigfoot, I've always said this thing. I don't think Bigfoot has intelligence. I think he has common sense. And even as a human being, what would you rather have, common sense or intelligence? Well, everybody's going to take common sense. Common sense keeps you alive. And I think he does have intelligence, but I think he has a lot more common sense. I think he knows better. He knows right from wrong, and he knows, not to turn left, but to turn right. And I truly believe that with Bigfoot. And if he's not going to put himself in a situation where he's going to get hurt, he's not going to do it. Dogman is apex predator. It doesn't matter. He is going to attack. He's going to fight, regardless if he gets killed or not. Because I think that's the separate between the two. So I don't think that, there's a whole lot of fighting between the two. I think it's just, it's one of these things when they came across each other, either they decided not to walk away, or, they decided that, you're going to move before me type situation.
It always amazes me that Dogman has the attitude of a pissed off house cat. That just absolutely, blows me away a little bit. I guess it's the irony of it all.
It is, because, the thing of it is, every single story that I've heard or you'll ever hear is that it's aggressive. They're nasty, they're mean, and they're aggressive. They're not going to back down. Is Dogman, he's an apex predator, but, what the biggest thing is, what is it? Where did it come from? Is it something that's always been here? Is it something that's a brand new species? It's hard to say. I told you a story about at a convention I was at, and there was a bar restaurant in the hotel that we were having a convention at. And I went up to the bar to get something to drink, and there was a gentleman that was sitting there, and obviously he was military, and military people can pick on military people. You can tell by the way, they address themselves. You can tell by their haircut. You can tell by their tattoos and things like that they were military. So this guy was obviously military. And he was asking, what's going on, with all these people, is there a party and stuff? And I said, there's a convention and things. And he asked what kind of convention. And I said it was a paranormal convention. And I was there speaking about Dogman and Bigfoot. And he's like, oh, like ghosts and stuff. And and he goes, are you one of those ghost hunters like on TV? And it's like, no, I do, Bigfoot and Dogman. And he goes, he knew what Bigfoot was, but he wouldn't know what Dogman was. And I explained to him what Dogman was, and he kind of like had this odd look on his face. And he goes, tell me about it. So we're sitting there talking, about Dogman. And he goes, I just got out of the military. I was part of a special operations team. And he goes, I'm going to tell you a story, and you're probably not going to believe me. I'm not drunk. I've been drinking. I'm not drunk. But we were called, and we dealt, he said we dealt with certain situations that were kept secret. But he never said what the certain situations were, if it was dealing with aliens or, whatever. But he said we were on a mission to deal with this alien species that was new to us. And the alien species was a canine species. And I said, canines, like dog canine? And he goes, yeah, they were like wolves, but they were an alien species. And he said they were so dangerous and aggressive that the group that they had, they never kept in the United States for security reasons. They kept it in a facility in South America. Well, apparently they overtook the facility and killed everybody in the facility and started to make havoc in this, village in, South America. So they had to go and take care of the situation. And he described them, he said they're like wolves, they're like werewolves. But they wore like a armor, not like a knight's armor, but like armor, protective armor as a uniform. They had weapons and things like that. And he said, well, we had weapons. We had special weapons because it was the only type of weapon that could kill these and penetrate the armor. But he said they had no intelligence whatsoever. Or I'm sorry, they had no common sense, but they had extreme intelligence. So if you shot at them, if there's a place to hide, they didn't run behind it. They just stood there. They just didn't have, they just didn't have common sense. No, they get away from it. And they ended up killing them. But he said when they would shoot them, they would make this horrible scream. He said it would wake me up at night, this scream. And because you can believe me or not, and he said this is true. And I remember about a year later, I did a convention and Linda Goffrey was there, and I mentioned it to Linda Goffrey, and Linda told me she heard the same story. There was just a little bit difference in the story, but it was the same story, and so that was some validation of his story. And when I described this is what the guy looked like, and she goes, no, I know who this person was who told me this story. So it was not the same person. And that was weird. And I've talked about it several times, and I've always been waiting for, a bunch of jackbooted fucks to kick my door down and drag my ass off, because I knew something I probably shouldn't have known, But it's a unique story. I mean, to this day, I'm still wrestling with it as, do I believe it? Or was someone just, pulling my leg? But, I mean, I felt because this guy he was a fellow veteran. He was, he served in the United States Army. I felt, he was my brother, unarmed, and he would not, play me, and stuff like that's going through your mind, I'm a very trusting person. I've always been a very trusting person. But but also on the other end of that, when, someone knows that you're in the paranormal, ufology, Bigfootology or whatever, they're gonna play you, too. So like I said, to this day, I'm still wrestling with it because Linda's story was the only other story I ever heard that was similar to mine. I've never heard anything other than that, about it.
We had Linda on. We had Linda on about 2 weeks ago, and she was saying that, not totally different topic here, but she was saying that people are starting to give reports of this creature really starting to spread its roots around North America, especially out west, where there had never been any reports out west 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and when I was talking about our map, where sightings are showing up in places you would never expect it, and that's true. They're just popping up all over the place because, 20 years ago, it was generally Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That was like the main areas. You know, when Defiance was going on, when the Bray Road stuff was going on, and when the Michigan Dogman was going on, then you had the sightings in Shenango Valley in Pennsylvania, you know, which is a national forest there. And, you know, a lot of sightings of not only, you know, adult dogmen, but a whole lot of sightings of, you know, smaller ones, you know, were taking place there. So, I mean, you know, now it's like I said, I mean, they're just all over the place, the amount of sightings. I mean, that we're getting, I mean, we have a lot on our website under our stuff there. And we still have some that we haven't even put on yet. I mean, we just, you know, we're talking with a SWAT team, you know, with the DEA in Louisiana that had an encounter on a training exercise. You know, we're talking with these guys, you know, about it, you know, about their encounter that they had. You know, it was their SWAT team, and you know, they're on a training exercise. There was, you know, 5 of them, and well, there was a total of 6, but there were 5 of them that were actual doing the training, and 1 that was observing what they were doing, and they were all in ghillie suits, and they were done with their exercise and training, and they were going back to their vehicle, and they ran into 3 of them, came face to face. They're, you know, standing off with 3 dogmen, you know, in Louisiana, in the bayous there. And these dogmen are looking at them. They're, you know, as what are you? Because these guys are in ghillie suits. Their faces are all camoed up. You know, and they were saying that, you know, these things are like, you know, how a dog will, like, you know, when you talk to a dog, the head would go off to the side, you know, and they said that's what they were doing. They were like looking at them, trying to figure out what they were. They were snarling at them, you know, they were growling at them, you know, they were taking defensive, you know, stance and things, but they didn't attack them, but they just didn't comprehend what these guys were doing because of their ghillie suits. And then, you know, eventually they just kind of backed off and left. And they said, you know, they got to their vehicles. They had weapons, but they had no live ammunition because they were in a training exercise. And they notify, you know, their watch commander, I guess, you know, whoever it was, and told them straight out, forget about it. I don't want to report. I don't want nothing. Don't talk about it. So these guys get back to their facility, and they're, you know, Googling, you know, what they saw. And that's how they came across our website, and they were looking at some of the pictures on our website, and they, you know, we're going to send these guys a message and tell them, and, you know, and they sent us pictures of them, you know, in the field. They sent us pictures of the area they were at, you know, the exact location where it took us. They sent us verification that they, you know, they were law enforcement, you know, we're getting a lot of stuff like that. I mean, majority of all the sightings that we're getting are law enforcement and military. We had another Louisiana police officer that was going down the road, and he sees one in the middle of the road eating something. And he, you know, thought it was a bear first till he got up on it, and he realized what it is. And he said this thing stood up and was just staring at him, and it came towards his vehicle. He threw the vehicle in reverse. He had his dash cam on, okay? And this thing came and jumped on the hood of his vehicle and started busting the glass of on his front windshield. And he slammed on the brake, kind of went to a pivot, you know, turn mode, and the thing got thrown off. And he went back to the station, scared, told his, sergeant what happened, showed his sergeant his vehicle. His hood was ripped up. His window was busted. The lights were busted on the car. Showed him the dash cam of this thing. His captain told him to go home, get some rest, calm down, come back tomorrow. Guy comes back into work the following day. His vehicle is completely repaired, like there was nothing wrong with it. He goes to his captain, talked to him about it. His captain acted like he didn't even know what he was talking about. They erased the dash cam of what they saw, of what he saw. of this creature attacking the vehicle. And they were threatening him if he continues to talk about it, they were going to send him to psychological evaluation, and it could cost him his job. I mean, just a lot of crazy stuff.
We hear those reports, Jodi, of this happening. That's not the first time I've heard something like that happen, and I'm sure not the first time you've heard something like that where the evidence just disappears. Does this not lead you to believe that there is something more to do with Dogman than just a bipedal canine running around the forest?
There's something to it more, because the Canadians, they deal with it different than the Americans. Okay, I talked with a guy who was with Canadian, I guess, I can't remember what he was called, but it was like your version of the U.S. Forestry Service.
Up here, it's conservation officers.
Yeah, it was like the top, wildlife people. And, he was telling me that there was a national park up there, and everybody who worked there knew that there were Dogman-type creatures in this park, and that these rangers had possession of very heavy weapons to their disposal because of these creatures. Well, apparently what happened was there was a group of individuals that were at a campsite and were killed, by this thing, by numerous of them, I guess, end up killing them. And the Rangers found them, and the Rangers notified whoever it was. And he said a secret team came down, and went in and cleaned the area up, as if nothing happened. And they went out and looked for the creature, and I guess they got him or killed him or whatever, because they had body bags that they put in the vehicle, and it wasn't the bodies of the people that that were killed. And he was saying these rangers, I mean, he said in some of these parts of this national park where they live in these, like ranger stations, for a couple of days before their relief comes in, and, they don't go out. They're scared of hell. They carry their weapons with them. They said they had M16s and stuff, and, I think, you guys deal with things different than we do. You guys are more open to knowing that hell, you guys even have a stamp, of werewolves with a werewolf on it. So you guys recognize that, that there's something there. But, there's something to this creature. It's either flesh and blood, it's supernatural, or it's not from this earth. There's something about this creature that just isn't right, and that they're keeping it more covered up than Bigfoot. I mean, I wrote the Ohio Division of Wildlife under the Freedom of Information Act on, the Dogman sightings and stuff here, and they flat denied my request. And you cannot deny a request under the Freedom of Information Act in the United States unless the files are classified. I wrote the FBI under Freedom of Information Act about Bigfoot. They sent me 22 documents of blacked out nonsense, but told me in the paperwork there's 2,000 documents plus that are classified. I wrote the U.S. Forestry Service Freedom of Information Act over a year ago on Dogman and never got any response back from them whatsoever. So, there's something to it that they just don't want people to know. And they're keeping it hush-hush. Bigfoot's I don't think is an issue anymore. This is the apex predator. This thing is taking human life. They know it's taking human life. And, it's, I don't know. I don't know how the Canadian government is, but the United States government is. They just think if they tell the people the truth, we're just gonna, tear our clothes off and run naked, stupid in the, the streets. It's end of the world type thing, and it's not. People are not stupid. If you took the whole world in general and gave everybody a survey, what do you believe in? Ghosts, Bigfoot, sea monsters, werewolves, and things like that, UFOs. Okay, obviously the first two answers are going to be so close. It's going to be ghosts and UFOs. Fighting for first place. Everybody has had a paranormal experience, or they know somebody that has. Everybody has had a UFO sighting, or they know somebody that has. Okay, Bigfoot's a little bit different, lake monsters and stuff like that. That's all on the bottom of the list. But those are going to be the two top things. Okay, so everybody in the world knows that we are not the only species around. God didn't make all these other planets in the universes for us just to sit there and look at. If the President of the United States came on TV today and said, look, UFOs are real, they exist, we have downed craft, we have a few bodies, they visit us, but at this point they haven't made any hostile move towards us. If they do, we will do what's necessary to protect the planet. But at this point, we're trying to make contact, and, they do exist. Well, you know what? You're going to think about it while you're laying in bed. You're going to talk to your wife about it. You're going to give your kids a kiss goodnight. They're going to go to bed. You're going to wake up the next morning. You're going to have breakfast with your family. You're going to put the kids off to school. You're going to, go to work. You got something to talk about at work. You're still going to pick your kids up at school, take them to soccer practice or out to dinner or whatever. Life's not going to stop. Okay, because deep in the back of your mind, you knew they already existed. It was just confirmed to you, but you already knew. You're going to have a couple people that's going to go to Lulu, and saying this is the end of the world or commit suicide or whatever. It's going to be a small percentage of people. Okay, but majority of, people are not going to do it. I mean, they're not going to think anything different. They might be a little bit afraid. They might go out and buy a gun. They might go and maybe build a shelter, collect more food, but they're not going to, go, bat crazy, thinking that the world's going to end, because everybody knew in the back of their mind that was, they exist. They have to exist. I mean, hell, Stephen Hawking even said, don't let them know we're here. If you get a message from them, ignore it. Stephen Hawking,
Yes.
That's a bad idea. The Indians shouldn't have been on the, on the beach when Christopher was coming saying, hey, come on, you just don't do it. You just don't do it.
I hear you there.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. Look at the human species. Okay, we can't coexist with each other, let alone coexist with another species out there. We're a violent race of people. We have always been at war, and that's not good, because if there's a warring alien race out there that's looking for a fight, here's planet Earth. This country has been killing each other. This planet has been killing each other for 2,000 years. That's a fight they might want. You just don't make contact. You just don't.
Unless it's already been made and they're still hiding it from us, my friend. Now I'm going half tinfoil on you. Just half. Can't go full.
Oh,
I'll get in trouble for my audience.
No, I'm going to tell you something. I'm a 100% firm believer. I spent 20 years in the Army. And, I love my country, but I can tell you the United States government is not the most purest government out there, and there's no pure government. I can honestly see our government being in contact with an alien species, telling this alien species, if you want to abduct people, to do experiments, but not kill them. Don't go overboard with it. Do it, but give us something in return. Give us technology. Give us weaponry. Give us something. I can see my government doing it. I can see the Russian government doing it. I can see the Chinese. I can see any government doing that, But to the point, telling them just don't overdo it, and things. I think a lot of people would believe our government would do something like that. I love Linda Moulton Howe. She's like one of these people that's real big into cattle mutilation stuff. Me personally, I don't think aliens are doing the cattle mutilation. I think pharmaceutical companies are doing it. Okay, because cow blood is the only compatible blood to human. Okay, and they can do a lot with cow blood for to have an emergency blood packet in the battlefield, okay, or for transfusions or whatever they want to use it for. So, why pay all this money for cows when you can go and steal them for free? And that's my theory. I think it's the government. I think it's pharmaceutical companies doing this stuff. I believe that they have technology that, we don't know about. Hell, the creator of Boeing even came out in, when was it, 1995, I think. He said that everything you see on Star Trek exists today. And he said that live on camera. Pharmaceutical companies, they got the money. They got the technology. They can do this. And like I said, I just don't think it's it's aliens. I think it's our own people doing it.
It is tough to accept. It is very tough to accept in regards to that, because something is being covered up if these creatures are being hunted down. And, hearing the story that both you and Linda had told about that species down in South America, you have to wonder if there is a relation to the Dogman up here then, that they are being killed off so quietly here or hunted down.
We're hearing about it here in Ohio, that they're being hunted down. There was a case here in Ohio. I'm trying to think. I think it was Brown County, where a farmer had some animals that were killed on his property. His corral was a metal corral, and this thing was able to bust one of the metal, sleeves in there. Something had to have been extremely strong in order to do it, but got into the crowd, was able to pull out two ponies, and didn't eat them, but killed them. He tore the head off of one of them and just slashed the other one up, went after the larger horse, and larger horse fought back, but he got a really nasty gash in his neck. Went after the sheep, killed a couple of the sheep, couple of them it didn't kill, just had some scratches and stuff on it. Now, when we were there for the investigation, there were still tracks, canine tracks that were in the corral there. And the sheriff's department was out there along with the Department of the Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife Division, and they destroyed them. They literally destroyed the tracks. They destroyed all the evidence, of what was there, what killed these things. And they went as far as there was a young man from Africa that was doing work on the different farms there as a laborer, but the guy was into voodoo because it was his religion from where he was from. And they went as far as to blame the killings on this guy. To cover up what was going on. And the guy that owned the property, even to this day, says he sees guys from the Division of Wildlife in camouflage on his property with high-power weapons looking for something out in the woods and things like that. I mean, it's they're tracking it. They're definitely looking, for these creatures, because they had, God forbid if word got out that it took human life, which it has. There's a couple of different cases that took place in Kentucky, where these things apparently taken human life in different parts of the country, and so far the people have not caught on to it, or they don't want to catch on to it, or they just ignore it. They don't want to believe it. So, yeah, something's going on for sure.
Jodi, we only got about 5 minutes left with you. I do want to touch on Frogman here, because this is a creature that seems to have came and went, and we don't hear much about it anymore. Why do you think that is?
No. Well, people have been seeing it. In March of 1972, is when the sightings took place. One was like on March 3rd was the first one, and both of the main sightings were done by police officers. And both police officers discharged their weapons on it. Now, one happened on the 3rd, and the other one happened on the 17th of March in 1972. And I think the one, it was on St. Patrick's Day, I believe, when the sighting took place on March 17th. And I believe that officer said when he saw it, he thought that it had like a wand in its hand, is what he described it to be. But, again, he got scared. He discharged his weapon on it. So those are the two best reports, because they were from police officers. But people are still seeing the Frogman. There's a castle that was hand-built along, the Little Miami River there. And, when people are there at the castle, visiting the castle, they say they see it down in the Little Miami there. So there's still sightings going on, but they're not as frequent as like the Bigfoot sightings and things like that. They may have a sighting, and 4 years later they may have another sighting, of this thing, but it's not prevalent like it was back in the 70s. So, and so, is this thing dead? Did this thing move on? Who knows? But it's definitely described as a typical frog-looking, creature, about, 4 feet to 5 feet. But body-wise, it's more human features. So, very odd case. But it's one of the best-known cryptids, around the country.
And quickly here, since we only got a couple minutes left, what about the Grassman?
The Grassman is the name for the Ohio Bigfoot, and the reason why they call it Grassman. Now, when I told you about Giant Castle Pass and South Africa, now South Africa was colonized by the Dutch, but when when people were coming from Europe to the United States, the Dutch that were coming to Ohio came from South Africa, and Ohio is a very large Dutch and German population in Ohio. So, and the northern part of Ohio is where the Dutch were. The southern part of Ohio is where the Germans are. And the Dutch, when they would see Bigfoot in Ohio, they called it the Bojesman, meaning Bushman. And that's what they called it in South Africa. And just the name Bojesman throughout the generations as times were going and things were changing and getting more evolved. You know, they weren't speaking the old language anymore. They were speaking English, so things went from Bushman to Grassman. So that's how the name came about. And it's, you know, and I was the first researcher in the state of Ohio to use the name Grassman in a book and on television. And I remember getting so much grief from other researchers. But now it's a prevalent name. You know, everybody uses the, you know, Grassman. You know, it's a really popular name. But I was the first researcher to ever use it. You know, and I did my research on the name, you know, going all the way back to South Africa, because in the book, A Buckeye Blue Hood, you know, they called the creature Budjesman in the book. They didn't call him Bigfoot or monster. They called it the Budjesman. And that's where I did my research, and that's how I, you know, found all this research of the giant hairy monsters in Giant Castle Pass that were called Budjesmans by the South Africans.
Quickly, my friend, we have just enough time for you to mention where people can find your research and information.
Our website is www.NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. It's one word. You can find my books on Amazon. One of our DVDs is on Amazon, but you can also get them off of our website. Our documentaries on Wisconsin werewolf and the beast of land between the lakes. So you can reach me on Facebook. You can reach me through the website. If you need to contact me through my email, it's OC4BFS@hotmail.com, which stands for the Ohio Center for Bigfoot Studies. So, or they can contact you through you.
Exactly.
You know on me.
Jodi, we'll do this again much sooner than last
Definitely.
time. I'm thinking in a month or two or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like I said, definitely got to get up to Canada. Definitely have to get up there.
The door is open. Hey, we're going to go open lines next hour. Your cryptid sightings or experiences, 1-702-302-4556 after the break.
Hello, SOR listeners. Lori and Fenton here. Let me ask you, now that disclosure's happened, what does it mean for ufology? For answers, join us at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th. Keynote speakers Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address the current disclosure agenda. Dave Scott, yes, you're Dave Scott, and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien encounters. Get your tickets at caufocon.com. That's caufocon.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night, we get all paranormal with Ghosts of the Great White North. Mike Morin will be back from Haunted Crew of Canada. We will be joined by Karen Smurl out of the United States. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night talking ghosts, because we don't do it a lot right now on the show. Maybe we're dropping the ball on it a little bit, but that's why we have Ghosts of the Great White North, the third Wednesday of every month, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on the Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Concupiscence. Concupiscence is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. If you want to connect live with me during the show as well, you could give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Watch us live Monday through Friday on periscope.tv. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We would appreciate that. We're on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to your shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. Read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO seekers, Contact TV, and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Hour number 3 here, we are opening up the phone lines to you. 1-702-302-4556. That's 1-702-302-4556. And I want to know your cryptid sightings. I want to know if you've run into a Dogman, Sasquatch. Tell me about it. It's an interesting topic indeed, because not everybody gets those sightings. Not everybody has something strange like that happen to them. So if you've had an experience, I want to hear about it. 1-702-302-4556. That's 1-702-302-4556 is the call-in number. Before we get into any cryptids, Paul over in the UK, he is asking, where does he get these passwords from? I don't know where Bill gets the passwords from. I really don't. I swear his thesaurus must be like this thick. I don't even know if half of them are words. I really don't. I really don't know if the passwords are even real. Half the time, I don't even know how to pronounce them. But for those of you who are wondering what the password is for, exactly. That's all I got to say about that. Exactly. What is the password for? Exactly. There you go. Plain and simple. We answered a mystery here for some of you in Spaced Out Radio Land. 1-702-302-4556 is the call-in number for tonight. We would appreciate you to call on in. Tell us if you've had an extreme experience with some sort of cryptid. I'm curious if any of you want to talk about what Jodi was saying about Dogman. I mean, running into that Special Forces soldier who had to go down to South America and take care of some of these alien species type creatures that look like dogs. They had armament. They had to bring in special weapons to take care of them. Do you buy that? Do you buy what he was saying about, that officer who had his car ripped up, had the dash cam footage of it, and all of a sudden it disappeared. Everything, all the evidence. His car was in great shape. His captain said, if you talk about this, we're going to send you out for psychiatric help. Why the cover-up? Why the cover-up? And Jodi has a very, very solid head on his shoulders. You know, to steal a word that I hate, he doesn't believe in a lot of this woo-woo stuff. You know, he just doesn't get that. He's not into it. But when he hears fellow soldiers telling him, and then Linda Godfrey, who is the queen of this community, comes in and says, I heard that exact same story too from someone else. You got to wonder, is there legs to that story? Joe Monk, call on in. Eric with a K, if you're listening, call on in. 1-702-302-4556 as we do open lines this hour until we get to the thought of the Dave in the next half hour. That story was kind of eerie, you know, about how he was saying that when it comes to Dogman sightings, that they're taking care of them. It's almost like there is some sort of special group out there hunting these creatures. I mean, it's kind of cool in a way if you think about it, that they are, you know, taking this seriously. But why cover it up? Yes, we can go all tinfoil hat and say maybe this is a government experiment that has gone wrong. Maybe this is some sort of super soldier program that has gone wrong. We don't know. What we do know is that people are seeing this creature right now. Maybe not this second, but they're having these experiences. I had a report emailed to me from north of me in Fort St. John, British Columbia, where a guy went out after work just to relax. He's got this one spot he likes to drive up to. It's got a good view of the town. And he saw something moving. Before he got out of his vehicle, he saw something moving in the tree line beside him. He put his car headlights onto high beam, and there was a 7 to 8 foot dog-like creature standing on two legs. I'd never heard a report in British Columbia before. This happened last year. And this creature started moving towards his car. Said it was huffing and puffing pretty heavily. Got the hell out of Dodge. You know, now the easy thing to say for a lot of people in those experiences is, well, maybe it was just a bunch of kids playing a hoax. Maybe it was a bear, a grizzly bear on hind legs. I don't even know what Dogman really looks like. So maybe it could have been. But this gentleman was absolutely convinced he saw a Dogman. So you have to wonder, you know, just 30 years ago, all these reports, like Jodi said, were hanging out in the Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan areas. And now, all of a sudden, the reports are coming out of places where they've never heard them before. Western Canada, Western the United States. So you have to wonder, what is going on? You got to wonder what is going on for these creatures to be hunted down. What is the secret behind them? Like, I can understand the secret behind Bigfoot. I really can, okay? Because, you know, like Todd Standing wants to take these creatures and he wants to, you know, get them protected by the governments. He's got court cases right now in California, British Columbia, and Alberta. And I understand him doing that. I think it's, whether you love or hate standing, I think it's a noble cause. Because I would love to see Bigfoot protected. However, this is where you open up a bunch of can of worms. You don't know its territory. You don't know its migration. You don't know what it eats. You don't know how sensitive it is to the environment because we don't have a body. We haven't been able to test it. Okay? It opens up a whole Pandora's box or a plethora of questions as to what we are dealing with. All right? It opens it all up. And when you open up that can of worms, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people out of work because now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make sure that this creature has a protected area. Once you learn the habitat, once you learn everything. That's a lot of forestry jobs on the West Coast where people are going to be out of work, a lot of mining jobs. Now, there's a lot of people out there, environmental people, who will say, who cares? We should have free energy. We shouldn't need gas. We shouldn't need all of this stuff. But, that's a pipe dream right now. I would love to have free energy. Lord knows the way they keep jacking up prices here in Canada, I'd love to have it. But you have to wonder if there is some sort of environmental hazard that could cause these creatures extinction if we can prove they are real. But when it comes to Dogman, we're dealing with something vicious, something of the unknown. They seem to be okay with Sasquatch being around now, they being the government, all right? We think they do. But if they've moved on to Dogman, what if Dogman was some sort of Montauk type project where they ended up, trying to make some sort of super soldier out of them? Maybe that's what they are, and they got wild. They were released. Who knows? But when it comes to Bigfoot, there's an entire environmental assessment that would need to be done. We're going to go to the phone lines here. Area code 530. Who am I speaking with tonight?
Plethora.
Hey, what's going on? Let's have a drink.
Hey, Dave. Well, I thought I'd better call, being you singled me out.
Excellent. Oob.
Oob.
There you go. We got Joe on from California.
As far as your Dogman and Bigfoot thing, you were talking earlier about who would win in a fight. I'd have to go with Bigfoot.
Me too.
Apparently they travel in family groups. Who knows? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if that's the case, there's no way a Dogman would stand a chance. That's just my 2 cents on that.
I think we could have a really good match, my friend. I really think there would be a really good match. I'm thinking on the levels of Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik back in the day.
Roddy Piper is where I'd put my money on.
And that's exactly it. I see the Dogman being pissed off like the Iron Sheik and trying to, slap Sasquatch into a camel clutch, break his back, make him humble.
I'm just wondering about the whole Dogman thing. Why is it only back in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and those areas, Michigan, whereas Bigfoot is all over the planet and it goes back in every culture for thousands of years? I think the Dogman might be something new.
Well, there have been older reports of the Dogman, but I'm wondering, and this is where if you listen to Jody's story, where these creatures seem to be being hunted down and just disappearing from areas where they're becoming troublesome. You have to wonder if there is some sort of scientific experimentation that's gone wrong.
Do you think government might have done something wrong?
Could. I'm not. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
No, I mean the government never does anything right. So yeah, I can agree with that.
Exactly. I mean,
they tried to make a super soldier. They screwed up. Cat got out of the bag, and that's what now?
And that's what it could be. We don't know. I mean, I like to think of it as a creature like Sasquatch that has some sort of innate ability because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, much like Sasquatch, you see anything Dogman in regards to photography or video, once again, we got that blurriness going on. We got that blurriness.
Well, you know about me and owls around here. I've gotten lots of pictures of them. I had one yesterday came by. Thing it must have been 2.5 foot tall. It was huge. I've never seen one that big. And I snapped about 8 pictures of it. And all the pictures of the head are blurry. I'll send you those.
Body is clear.
So maybe body's clear. You can see the legs. It's got legs like a big falcon or something. It was in a tree that's maybe, I don't know, 20 feet away, and the head is blurry.
Well, since I'm being told that I keep saying you have to wonder, I'll say you have to wonder about whether or not, they're keeping an eye on you. Are they taking you tonight, Joe? When are you gonna?
I don't think I've been taken.
When are you gonna admit to it? When are you going to admit to it, Joe?
I think, it's possible that might have happened when I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old, everything. But I think, I don't know, I might have done some damage to them a couple of years ago, maybe if they tried to take me, and nothing since then. The last weird experience was probably 25 years ago when I had about 6 hours of missing time coming home from work. Other than that, I don't think I've been taken. Although the quarters did move one night.
You are in such denial. You are in such denial about this.
No, denial is if you know something has happened and you're saying it doesn't. I have no recollection of being taken. So, I'm not going to say I have been if I don't know that I have been.
Everybody around you knows you have been. You know what? I'm gonna get a hypnotherapist to regress you. That's my goal coming up here. I'm gonna get a hypnotherapist to regress you. I want to hear your stories. I want your brain picked.
That could be interesting.
That would be scary.
Put it on YouTube.
How's the hair tonight?
The hair is magnificent. It's frozen in place. It's 25 degrees out here right now.
Nice.
Most people know this, but there's probably a lot of listeners that don't. I sit outside and listen to the show every night, and I've got crystal clear skies, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. What is that, around 4 in that damn thing that Canadians use? What, Celsius?
Yes, it's cold for you.
It's a bit
cold.
Chilly out here tonight.
It's cold for you. Yes. Gail is saying, what about your knocked over coins? Why are you in denial?
Well, I'm not in denial. I mean, I've reported to you. I've showed you the pictures. I had the, do you want me to tell that story?
Sure, go for it.
Well, there was one morning I woke up and my leg was hurting, and I looked down, and there was 3 big scratches on the back of my calf. It was from my knee all the way down to my ankle. And not just red welts. I mean, there were scratches. They were bleeding. I thought, what the hell is this? I got to cut my toenails. Something's wrong with this. And then get out of bed. I'm looking around, and I look over at the 3/4. I was done the 3/4 experiment. They were stacked on my dresser, and they've been there for like a year and a half, haven't moved. They're knocked over. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I still didn't put 2 and 2 together. Later that day, I went out and checked my game cameras. On my property, I've got game cameras out everywhere. And 2 of my game cameras were just dead. The batteries were fine, but they weren't working. There was no pictures on them. I couldn't get them to work. I couldn't get them to fire up. I sent them back to Browning, the company that made them. and they said, we don't know. We said, we've had everybody look at these. We've never seen anything like this. We can't figure out what's wrong with them. They're not working. And they sent me brand new cameras. They sent them right back. They sent me new ones. And I thought, okay, I got the cameras didn't work, the coins, the scratches on the leg, which I sent you pictures of that. So you can drop a story of what might have happened. I don't recall anything, so I'm not denying anything, but who knows what happened? Maybe Carl came by.
You got taken, Joe. You got taken. That's what happened.
I can't deny it, but I'm not admitting it either. I don't know.
I'd put a I'd put a 2-4 on it of kokanee beer. I would. I would.
Kokanee beer.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff right there. You know, not that we promote alcohol consumption during Spaced Out Radio, but
we never promote alcohol consumption as I'm drinking a Pepsi and rum right now.
Very nice. Very, very nice. So
maybe you can bring on Bacardi as a sponsor.
Yes, but then you'd probably be hounding me for free beverages.
I would never do that.
Oh, I would. I absolutely I would. Why not? It's the fun of it.
Oh, I'd accept them. I wouldn't hound you for them.
Oh, exactly. I sent you beer the last time, but so what do you think Dogman is then? Just out of curiosity.
Well, from all the stories I've heard on your show and on the websites, everything I've looked at, it's something that's new. So it's either a U.S. military project that went bad and something got loose, or possibly some new type of alien. Maybe somebody landed and their dog got loose, their pet dog got loose, and they took off and left it here and it bred. Who knows? But I don't seem to pick up the feeling that it's been around for a long time, as opposed to the Bigfoot. And like Jody, your guest earlier, was saying, there's lots of different species. You know, there's the three-toed ones and the almaces everywhere else. And I think the Bigfoot's a native to the planet and has been here for a long time, but Dogman's something new. Just my thought on it. I don't know.
Have you had any more Sasquatch interaction around your property?
Nothing lately. A couple of months ago, in fact, I think I talked to you one night right after the show where the smell came up. And I heard you talking about that tonight on the show, where you didn't notice any smell when you had your sighting, and some other people haven't. But you know, we've had footprints around here. There's been some odd things, but there was a smell that came through the other night. It's kind of like a combination of wet dog, sulfur, and rotting meat. And it was just pungent. I mean, it's not skunk. I know what that smells like. I've been out here in the woods for decades. But it was something different. I've even been around, I've seen bears come through. I know what they smell like. It wasn't a bear. But it was something nasty. I think I talked to you about it.
You did.
That night. I went out, shot a bunch of pictures, looking to see if I could see any eyes shine or anything. And other than that, that's about it. It's really rare when things happen, but when they do, it's interesting.
How many footprints have you found on your property?
Just the one time. I've got the photo. I think you've seen the photos that went across the driveway. There was maybe a track of 9 or 12 footprints going across. It's heavy. It was a heavy gravel driveway. I'm 270 pounds right now, and I could run across the driveway and I couldn't make a dent. You can't see where I just walked. And these footprints were down 2 inches into the gravel. I took the pictures. It was probably a 19-inch track, and I could barely, I'm 6'4", and I could barely step the length of these steps. People thought I might be bear, but I think a bear doesn't make those big of strides. We don't have grizzlies here. I know it's on our state flag, but you know, we've got a lot of black bear around here, but just that one time with the prints. The interesting thing was I was outside in the barn all night, and I came out when the sun came up to go in the house to get some coffee, and that's when I noticed the prints. So when they came by, I was out there, and if you track the prints back, it would have went to one of the windows in the barn, so maybe something was sitting there looking at me while I was in the barn.
Oh, that's freaky. I didn't know that.
And now, a day or two after that, I walked around the back side of the barn, and there was a oak tree. Nice oak tree, straight, probably a good 5-6 inches in diameter, growing up right along the back corner, and it was snapped off. I couldn't quite reach it, so it was probably 9 foot, and it was snapped off. And, you know, this was back in 05 or 06, and I wasn't really following all the Bigfoot things and any of that stuff online, so I knew nothing about the Bigfoot supposed to snap off trees to mark their trails or anything. I just went, damn, wonder what happened here, and cut the tree down. But after a while, I got to thinking about it. It's like, okay, the prints came right by here. There was a broken tree branch, and there was no sense. It was a healthy tree. I followed the tracks down further, and I couldn't find anything. There have been some things around here. I don't think they're around here all the time, but I think it's a migration route maybe, going from point A to point B, and they come through here a couple times a year maybe. Sometimes they make themselves known, sometimes they don't.
How does a dog react when animals are around, and has it ever acted differently that you couldn't explain?
The anti-critter device basically sleeps most of the time or just sits up by the door. It'll go out and chase the deer away and things. But I used to have a Rottweiler, Lola, and I'd be sitting outside, and she wouldn't get more than 10 feet away from me. She was always, you know, one of those dogs that's always there protecting, guarding. And there were a couple nights listening to your show, the dog would stand up, it would back up to me, lean against me, and give a really low growl while it's looking out into the woods, which was basically her telling me there's something out there. I'd look around and say, okay, time to go in. Rottweiler was good at that. The anti-critter device, a dragon could come by and she wouldn't notice it.
Unless it's deer.
Unless it's deer, it'll chase the deer away. And even that, you saw it. I got pictures of the deer standing 15 foot away from me, and the dog's asleep, wouldn't even notice that. I need a better
it's a hell of a guard dog you got there, Joe. Hell of a guard dog.
She's old.
I tell you, I just got a German Shepherd from Mike Morin, who'll be on the show tomorrow night. He had to rehome his dog, so I got my dream dog right now, and he's not mine. I told Mike, you know, if you find a different living condition, you can come get him at any time. But this guy will not leave me alone, and
that's good.
And he will not leave my son alone. He hates our rabbit. He hates Bruce the rabbit. Hates him. Wants to kill him. You know, so, you know, had to, you know, kind of let him know that Bruce's family, you know, you're the newcomer here. Bruce has tenure on you, you know, so trying to train him up on that. It's not going too well, but that's okay. That's okay. But this dog...
Maybe it doesn't like the rabbit because it's too reminiscent of a gnome.
You had to go there, eh? Had to go there. Why would you do that? We were having a good conversation until
just wanted to see if maybe people start loading up the gnome pictures on you. And...
You know they're going to happen now. You know they're going to happen.
Well, you know, I sent you pictures. I got a picture of a gnome on my game camera.
Yes, I know, but that one's quite suspicious. I'd like to see the scientist and skeptic in me would like to see the before pictures on how they moved over there. And if they're on game camera.
There's the photo of the gnome there's the photo of the gnome and the unicorn. I had both of them in one photo.
I saw that. That was hilarious. So Joe has this deer that only has one antler that he calls him the unicorn. Unbelievable. You know, I had respect for you, man, until you brought up the whole gnome thing. You know, Adam in the chat room is going to go absolutely rabid now. He's going to go absolutely rabid because you just hit
Going to go rabbit?
No, not rabbit. Rabid. And because, I mean, he has a gnome addiction, and he's going to go crazy now. You know? He's going to go crazy now. It's terrible. Terrible. So, Joe, any more UFOs flying over the house?
Well, I've sent you basically, I'll talk about the ones that I can get photos of. That way I can say, look, here's what I saw. Sometimes you see things, but you can't get the camera out in time, or it's a blurry picture. I got the one I took the picture of the vulture flying over, and there was that weird thing over behind it that just happened to show up. I didn't see it when I took the picture, and Keith definitely, he knew what that was. He said it was some type of surveillance drone. Was it maybe a year ago? I had the picture of the black triangle. It was during the show. In fact, you had someone on talking about UFOs, and I'm looking up and I'm watching one. I snapped a couple photos of it, and I've posted those. I only like to talk about the ones that I've got some proof of.
Oh, hell, this is Paranormal Radio. You don't need proof. What is proof? What is proof? Trip actually has a question for you, Joe. He is asking, do you have a diary or a mark on the calendar to see if there's any pattern to the events you experience? Like when you're taken?
No, I don't. I don't have anything like that. I'm a guy, so I don't have a journal. It's probably a good idea. It would have been nice if I'd started something like that, 20 years ago. Like I said, I'm not an experiencer. People that know they've been taken, they've been with UFOs, they're called themselves experiencers, or there's lots of other terms. People that notice ghosts or Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, whatever. I call myself a noticer. I notice strange things. You can have 20 people in a place. I'll be standing there and go, hey, look at that. People won't notice it until I point something out, and people go, that's odd. So that it's kind of a new term there, the noticer.
The noticer.
I'm a noticer. I notice odd things.
Mm-hmm.
That's like near-death experiences. That whole term bothers me. Either you're dead or you're not. You can't get near death and have an experience.
But you've had one.
Like, hey, I died. I had an experience. I came back. That's near death. I was near death. So you got to come up with something better.
Did you see the light?
No, there was no light. I was in a hospital on a gurney looking up and seeing doctors and nurses, and they're doing all that stuff you see in, stat this and doing paddles, and they're all screaming at each other. And then I kind of woke up and it was in this alpine meadow. Green grass, tall trees, sun was shining, and there was someone standing there in front of me that wasn't dead. I didn't see any dead relatives or anything like that. There was someone standing there that was very much alive, and she looked up at me and said, "Don't leave me." Just those 3 words. And I said, "I won't." And I woke up, and I'm laying in the bed, and there was a nurse looking down at me. She said, "Welcome back." I said, "Where'd I go?" She said, "Well, you were dead for 3 or 4 minutes." And I thought that was strange. Then the doctor come over, and he said, "Welcome back." Which it's kind of an interesting thing to have the doctors and the nurses say, "Welcome back." It's almost like they know you go somewhere.
I hope I'm not prying too much, but would you feel comfortable in telling us the circumstances as to what led to that?
Oh, I was in the hospital. I had a streptococcal pneumonia, and it's basically it's fluid builds up. There's a sac around your heart and your lungs called the pleural sac, and the area between it just fills up with fluid, and it's 95% fatal. and I was in the hospital for almost 3 months. That had 8 operations on me, and I'm the guy that's never been sick, was never in the hospital, came down with this, and it finally killed me. The doctor called me one of his 5%ers. I said, "What's a 5%er?" He says, "Well, 95% of these people that have this die." I said, "Yeah, but I died." He said, "Yeah, but you came back." Actually, he said, "You got better," which was a line from Monty Python, which I really appreciated that. I died, but I got better.
Do you recall Do you recall anything besides the meadow?
No, I don't. And the weird thing is, it's not like a dream. I'm one of those people, I'll dream every night. Every time I go to sleep, I'm dreaming. But this dream, this was, let me think how long ago it was, maybe 8 years ago. And I can remember it right now, every detail of it vividly. It was almost like, it was so realistic. The colors and the sensations, it was so 3D that real life right now almost seems like 2D. Everything seems flat and gray compared to what that was. It was a hell of an experience.
Was it what was it comforting? Was it painful?
Oh yeah, no, it was absolutely what I guess you could use the word blissful, happy. It was like, wow, what a great place. And there was no pain. Everything looked great, So I'm not afraid of, life is a game that we all lose. We're all going to end up somewhere else. And if that's where I end up, well, bring it on.
In regards to that, with the lady who said, "Don't leave me," had you ever seen her before?
Yes, it was my ex-fiance, which is the weird part, because at the time we weren't even talking to each other. The succubus. I've told you about the succubus.
Yes, the succubus. I think every man has had one of them. So how did she come to you, though, if you're going through this at that immediate time? Did you ever talk to her about that?
No, I didn't. She's one of those people that, if you mention Bigfoot or UFOs or anything out of the absolute normal, she think you're absolutely insane. So it's not even something I'd bother bringing up to her.
Real Democrat, eh?
But there's just something completely wrong with her. I don't know what it was. Well, she was cute.
Oh, good. As long as she was good looking, you could.
Yeah.
That's viable, I guess. Very viable for some.
Took a bow wow.
But were you surprised it was her? Out of all people.
I wouldn't say surprised. I would say disappointed. Because every time someone talks about their near-death experiences, they see their father or their mother that passed on, or a grandfather or an uncle, a beloved uncle or something, or an angels or the white light. I get my ex. It's kind of like, oh yeah.
So in other words, you went to hell, is what you're saying.
I don't know.
Because I will be some pissed off, my friend, if the day, if I have one of these NDEs, and I hope I don't, because there's two things I don't want to experience: a near-death experience, or one of those out-of-body experiences where you got like the cord that attaches to you. I don't want one of those. That just sounds too freaky to me.
Yeah, I don't know about the cord thing. I've had that happen to me for a couple of times in my life. I didn't know what it was at the time because I'd never heard about it. I had one happen. I was probably 8 years old up in Sequoia National Forest, sleeping in the camper. Families around. We're up at a place called Lodgepole. And I woke up and I'm hovering. It is middle of the night. I could look around and I could see the forest around me, the campfire and the camper down below me. And I said, what the hell's going on? And so wham, I slammed back down in my body. And I never told anyone about that. It was like, this is weird. But then probably 20 years later, sleeping in my bed. I was down in Southern California, and I woke up, and I'm maybe 30 feet above the house. And I'm looking around. It's nighttime. I could see the neighborhood. I could see everything that's around. I went, what the hell's going on? Wham! I slammed back down in my body. It's only happened those 2 times.
See, and that happened to me in a dream state just a few weeks ago, man, where I got slammed back in my body because I felt myself rising up to a UFO. And I didn't want to go. But that's slamming on the bed. That's the first time I had experienced that. That's quite jarring when you get that slam.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, it's something that you don't forget.
No.
You know, it's...
And the thing, like, with mine, just the other, like, when it happened, I knew I was in a dream state because it was sunny, it was warm, there was no snow, and I was in shorts and a T-shirt, and I was talking to Preacher. But the main thing that sealed it for me that it was a dream was the fact that when I dropped my phone, you know, because I was excited to see this giant disc, and I picked it back up, I was trying to talk to Preacher, and my phone was, you know, so I'm showing the people on Periscope, there's my screen, the phone was backwards and upside down, so here I am like this, like, hello, and I couldn't figure out how to turn my phone around to get it done properly. So that's where I knew that I was in some sort of weird dream state. But when I got slammed back in... Were
you sleeping when this happened, or were you conscious, awake when it happened?
No, I was sleeping when this happened.
And you woke up and you were talking to Preacher?
No, in my dream I was talking to Preacher on the phone. When I woke up was when I was slammed back into my body. That's where all of a sudden I was like, kind of, uh-oh, what went on here?
Yes, for me, I didn't go like somewhere else. It's like I just rose straight up, maybe 30 feet into the air.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at night, looking around, and wham, right back down.
Oh, see, in my
I wasn't transported somewhere else.
No, in my dream, they were taking me because as I remember saying to Preacher on the phone during my dream, I got to get inside so they don't take me. And as I started walking from my driveway to go underneath my carport to go into my house, I started rising up on an angle towards the ship. And next thing I know, I'm above my carport, which is my patio. Then I'm above my roof. And I was like, no, guys, you're not taking me today. And that's all of a sudden it was like, bang, right back in my bed. It was weird. Hey, Joe, hold on. We got time for the thought of the day.
Great.
Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where during the day I put a simple question on the board, which is on my Facebook, and then I give you, the valued listener, the opportunity to answer. Tell me what you think. So today's Thought of the Dave is... why are all Sasquatch and Dogman photos blurry? And we got some interesting answers. Mr. Oob, I will give you the first opportunity to answer that. Why do you think Sasquatch and Dogman pictures are always blurry?
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, you know, I take thousands of pictures. I've got game cameras, I've got regular cameras, I've got the phone cameras. It's hard to take a picture of anything out in the woods that doesn't end up blurry. I've got so many deer pictures that are blurry. I've got owl pictures that are blurry. I've got squirrel pictures that are blurry. And someone's got a regular camera and they're out and they're shooting. You know, they're excited, they move. I'm not sure if it's something metaphysical that the Bigfoot can say, oh, don't want my picture taken. And everything around them is clear, but they're blurry. I've got those pictures. It's hard to take pictures of wildlife. It just really is. I can send you thousands of blurry pictures of animals if you like.
Oh, I know our Twitter crowd would absolutely love those. You know, because they love them blurry photos.
Joe, don't tweet.
I know you don't. You could send it to me, and I'll send them out there. All right, well, let's get to some responses. J.A. Pomerantz says, what if they're interdimensional entities our cameras might not detect 4D beings, like pixels? Just a thought. And here's the irony of that, is for that comment to come out, because that's what I experienced with Bigfoot right before I heard the roar, was the pixelation, seeing the pixelation. So I thought that was a little ironic that, or coincidental, that came as the first comment to this question. Paul says, people are in a rush when they are trying to take a picture at a life-changing moment. Here is a good example of me seeing a bear and rush to take its pic as it runs away. It's a big bear too, Paul. That could be true too. What do you think, Joe?
I think it's something that Bill Gates built into all the cameras to keep us from finding out the truth.
I didn't know he owned Fuji.
Bill Gates owns everything.
Does he own you and your experiences with aliens?
Bill Gates is not sure where I'm at right now, so I'm safe.
All right. Dallas says, because clear pictures would show that there is no such thing as Dogman or Bigfoot. I respectfully disagreed with him there because, well, I've seen it. Now, John says, UFO pics are the same way, blurry and fuzzy. Yes, way to add to that, John. And we have Robert, who says, I have not seen one picture that I would not believe is a hoax, even blurry ones. Maybe the best credible photos should be posted so we can all view the evidence or lack of it. That's going to cause
You can't post photos. I've taken hundreds of pictures of anything in the sky that goes by. I take a photo of it, whether it's a bird or whether it's helicopters, or whether it's planes, or it's, well, the U-2s. I finally got a clear one of the U-2 coming in the other day. I sent that one to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to take a picture of something in the sky that's not blurry. They're moving.
Yes, I would agree. Let's move on. John says the average onlooker would be so excited, nervous, and scared to see one of these for the first time that their hands would be shaking. I fully agree with that. Fully agree with that one. Barry says, ever try to take a picture when you're scared crapless? In hunting, they call it buck fever. I'm in agreement with that one, too. Same thing as John said.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin, you never know if it's Kevin or Kevin's beard that's talking. Bang, bang, Kevin. Bang, bang. He says, I have seen trail cam pics of what looks to be a Sasquatch. It was too blurry to make out a definitive judgment. Pics on the same cam of coyotes and hogs, not blurry. Guess the stable trail cam got buck fever also. I've noticed that a lot as well with people who've come on. Their trail cams just never seem to pick up Sasquatch or anything fun. Rare.
I do have blurry pictures on my trail cams of regular wildlife. A lot of clear ones, but I'll get a lot of blurry ones too. So I don't know what the answer is on this one.
Now, Gail says, most likely because in Sasquatch photos, he is on the move. If he were standing still saying, cheese, everyone would get a beautiful pic. Maybe he just doesn't like his photo being taken. Now, Lou says, because these events are rare, it's by surprise, and if you're lucky enough to have an opportunity, it will be in a flurry of excitement and possible fear. Well, of course, we've heard that. Thank you, Lou. Chris says, Dave Scott, you should know best. The hair blows in the wind. Of course the pics are blurry. So now she's blaming our luscious, lovely hair.
Could be the hair moving.
Kevin does confirm that was the beard that asked the picture, or asked the question, not him. Thank you for the update, Kevin. Now, Mike says, because people forget to turn on autofocus, and in the old photos, there was no such thing as autofocus. Mike, you're out of focus. We'll see you tomorrow night on the show. Kat says it could be also be the adrenaline making the photographer not so steady. This is true. Michelle Deschamps, who has been a guest on this show, people are so nervous as they try to hold their cameras steady as they are about to take a photo or photos of something incredible, be it Bigfoot or a UFO, and that's if you have a camera on you. Most of the time, people don't. And I had somebody trying to advertise their new book, which I politely declined or deleted because I'm that guy. Mean that way, vicious. Do you think that's wrong? I deleted.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Free advertisers need to die.
Oh, come on. So many things have to die with you. Why does everything have to die with you? Why so negative?
It's a simple solution.
I got you. Now, let's see. Trying to find some good ones here as time winds down here. John Watt says, I bet there is clear shots of Bigfoot, but people will not ever believe it if you took a picture of one and it's clear as day. They would look at it and say, that's Hollywood makeup.
Like right on the money. That's perfect.
Yeah.
There have been people who have put up perfectly clear pictures. Well, it's got to be fake. If it's blurry, then it's got to be fake. You know, you're never going to satisfy anybody.
I agree. Tajinder has a very good comment here. He says, because they are interdimensional beings and they are switching between realities all the time, so you will never be able to get a clear picture. Thought that was obvious. LOL. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. But there is one good one here. We'll read Catherine's here. She says, because trained photographers rarely go into the forest. And then Michael says, I don't know about Dogman photos, but I have seen a few fairly sharp photos of Sasquatch that were not hoaxes. I sent a link to the video of that male and a baby recently. Yes, you did. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And the best one that I like of today, as we round off the thought of the day and go to start closing down this show, comes from Derek. He says, they aren't. Sasquatch is blurry. The photos are normal. Put that one in your thinking cap for a while. Mr. Oob, thank you so much for calling in, buddy.
Oob, Dave.
Rock on. Plethora. Go have a plethora. Catch us some more black triangles if you don't mind.
Well, I haven't checked my cameras in about a month, so I'll check them tomorrow and see what's on them.
You're due. You're due, my friend. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good night, Dave.
All right.
Good night, travelers.
Hey, good night. And don't forget, we are going on Periscope after this to hang out, play some music. Periscope.tv/Spaced Out Radio. If you want to rock with us, we would appreciate that. Time to gather, space travelers. I'll take your tunes. I'll play them. Also want to say thank you to Jodi Cook for coming on the first 2 hours to talk Dogman and talk Sasquatch and other creatures of the night or the forest, whatever you want to call them. Tomorrow night on the program, Karen Smurl, Mike Morin, in for Ghosts of the Great White North as we get going on everything paranormal. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We got Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Gail, don't you think you're going anywhere. You stay right there, Gail. Right there, Gail. Don't move. Bumblefoot is the official music of SOR. By the way, check out sonsofapollo.com. Sons of Apollo, his new band. They just released their tour schedule for this year. Got some really good dates. I'm going down in April to see them in Seattle. Got to rock with the Mr. B. Also want to say a big shout out to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, everybody on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, everybody on Periscope, in the Spreaker chat room, and the veterans in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thank you for a great night. Thank you for sharing this show. Thank you for spreading the love, because together, my friends, we own the night. I'll talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. Don't forget Periscope TV right after this. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.